Righty. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Life. My name is Linda Bown. I'm your host. I have Hillari Wennerstrom, former school committee woman and selectman from Tewksbury, and Rick Rowe, former selectman of Tewksbury. So we have 3 former selectmen here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. But anyway,
Always trouble when there's 3 former
yes.
selectmen.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about it. They went on the Memorial Day. They went with Augie, Warren Allgrove, who was also a former selectman. And
Have you ever had Warren here in the morning?
I don't know if I have. I might have had.
He'd be fun to have.
He would a lot of history there. With he's still back up where he is. There's still one of my signs up that was before. I mean, he used the sign and somebody else used the sign. You know how we used to hand the signs down, and all the others have fallen off, and Linda Bown is still up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
That's
he
cool.
always reminds me of it. Are you ever going to take that sign down? So. So, but yeah, Augie, I got to talk to him at the town meeting. Strange town meeting, 43 minutes.
Yeah, I was not there.
I know.
There was another town. Sure. There was another town event. I'm on the committee for the Hall of Fame, Tewksbury High School Hall of Fame, and we had a vote that night, the preliminary vote so I had to pick one or the other, and I picked the other.
Of course.
Yeah. So we have 5 new Hall of Fame inductees that are going in, and the celebration will be in November,
And
November 20th.
Who would they be?
Oh, you're putting me right on the spot here. So the first one is Kerry Cohane. She's a 5-time state champion. She won the state championship in cross country. She won the mile twice, and she also was the anchor in the 4x800 relay that she won in her junior and senior year. So Kerry's going in. We have Matt Donahue, who's a state wrestling champ. We have Ryan Cooney, who was just shy of being the all-time leading scorer in Tewksbury in basketball. He scored over 1,400 points, and he went on to play in college and broke the school scoring record.
Wow.
And then we have Kevin Halloran. He was a 3-sport first-team Lowell Sun All-Star in basketball, soccer, and baseball.
Well,
And then the
wow.
last one is Brian Carey. Brian Carey was a starting quarterback for the football team, went to the Super Bowl. He was a really good lacrosse player. And his dad coached at Tingsboro High.
Ed, right?
Ed coached girls basketball, boys basketball, football,
He was
a lifer,
And a
for
teacher, he was very, yeah.
yeah, and so Ed's in the Hall of Fame too. Yeah, it's going to be really good. An excellent class. I was, 5 very deserving athletes.
Ed Carey was a big influence on my son. He
Yeah,
was a good teacher.
when you're at that, I coached at, I coached at the school for 20 years, and you realize how important that role is, because there is the kids are looking for leadership. They're learning responsibility. They're learning what dedication does, and so coaches play a big part of that. I'll just say I went to a celebration of life for Buzzy McHale. And Buzzy was a Lowell guy.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Fame at Keith Academy.
Yeah.
And which is Lowell Catholic Hall of Fame. And he was my coach. And then I coached with him at Tingsboro High School. We coached basketball together. And a friend, a mentor. It's big. These coaches, Larry Kelleher,
He was a staple,
our
both of
coach.
them, yeah.
Yeah, they just play a huge role in your development as a young person. So, it was a good turnout for Buzzy's celebration of life, and it was a nice event.
I talked to Mike Dillon a lot about it because he's into wrestling and about school sports and how important and how devastating that was during the pandemic.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That had to just.
I wasn't coaching during there, but I just felt there's about a 3-year period there where these kids really didn't get to participate. I had my next door neighbor who was a very, very good football player, and he didn't get to play his senior year. And he played through the youth sports and through high school, and now he's a senior, and no season.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have discussions with other coaches. I said, listen, this is about the kids. They only go through this once in a lifetime. They're going to remember it for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be very careful on how you coach these kids and the example that you're going to set, because a bad experience will last them the rest of their lives too.
Yeah.
You see these kids come up and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't like my coach. I didn't do that," and that's what they remember from high school. So, it's you got to be careful.
Yeah.
What's that?
Where is coach school?
Where is coach school? Probably around your kitchen and dining room table.
And
That's
why
where
don't
coaching
coaches?
school is. It's what you learn.
See, my biggest gets me ticked off is I get
There we go.
some grandmother should get on my ear. The coach won't play my grandson. I said, there's something wrong with the freaking coach. It's a game. It's not like
it's
this
not-
isn't like the Red Sox are going to draft you ever.
No.
It's a game. Every
No.
kid
Yeah.
should be made to play. Not, I'm not going to let him play today because I didn't like he was chewing gum.
Yeah.
Hey,
Listen,
every kid should be made to play, in my book. Listening to you.
So I agree. In the developmental stage, when you're in junior high school, when you're in let's say the 9th or 10th grade, and you're playing JV sports, that's a developmental age where I think you should play almost everybody. And then when you get
Why
to,
almost?
because we sometimes, John, you might have 15 kids on a basketball team, and it's not a long game, and you can't play 15 kids all the time. Or
I'm not saying all the time. But
equal time. But I think the kids need to learn too that if you're going to work hard and put into it, then you're going to be rewarded with playing time. And the kids that don't might get less playing time. But once you get to like a varsity sport, that's part of the learning experience too. I say my work ethic, and I have a pretty good one. I work 7 days a week, and I work long hours, and that came from.
He's the king bee.
Yeah, well, there's no kings in beekeeping. Remember that,
queens.
John. It's female dominated, and when you can accept that, you'll do fine.
So's the world.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have to put a lot of work into it, and you learn that dedication. And my work ethic comes from. It started with sports. And, I shot baskets in my driveway every night until it got dark.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play. And you learn how to get along with your teammates. You learn responsibility. You got to go to practice every day. You got to be on time. If you're not playing, you have to accept that and be supportive of the
Yes.
team. So it's not like everybody gets an A and everybody gets a trophy. So that's not the correct way of sports, and so and when you get into life, not everybody's going to be the boss.
That's right.
But I think there's also the lessons to learn in that, and we saw it this year in a number of sports team seasons, that 6th, 7th, 8th player, those kids coming off the bench, whether it, regardless of what the sport is, unless it's individualized, those people play a key role. When somebody goes down or someone needs a break, you need to have that bench to come in. And I think that's where people often highlight, oh, my son didn't start, or, the focus on he's a starter. Well, there's also key players that come in off the bench and,
Yes.
and really light the team up or get the team fired back up when things aren't working. So I think, there's an important lesson there too, is, you don't always have to be the first person on the field or the court. You can be that person that comes in and does
I
good
made a
job.
comment one time in the teacher's room, and this is when I was just out of college, and I made a comment about a player, and I said, I think that player is really going to do well in life. And one of the teachers who didn't like me when I was a student, she said to me, what are you talking about? Just because they're a good basketball player, they're going to do well in life? I said, I'm not talking about a good basketball player. I said, I'm talking about that kid at the end of the bench that doesn't hardly play, but he comes to practice every day. He accepts it. He's a good teammate. He works hard when he's at practice, when he's on the second team playing against the first team. And I said, and he accepts that role.
He gets the team fired up also.
He does,
Yeah.
and it's so important. You practice like you play. So if you have a group that might not play as much during the game, but they're pushing that first team in practice, that team's going to perform.
Yeah.
So that was my point. It's not
Yeah.
the best player on the team isn't the player that's going to do well in life. It's that player that shows up and gets along with his teammates and does all those little things to be part of the team. Team chemistry is everything.
Well, it's like the water boy in a football team.
Yep.
Very important person.
I saw at this Buzzy celebration of life, there was one person that brought a big smile to my face. And I had seen him since college, and he came right over to me. I gave him a big hug. That was our team manager. Our basketball team manager.
Yeah.
He kept the scorebooks. He did the stats. He all the things that you might not appreciate as a player, but in my eyes, this guy's a legend.
Yeah.
And I'll say his name, Emalethea. Yeah.
Yeah.
His dad was on the school committee for many
Yeah.
years, and
Well,
Yeah.
it's like Dorian, when he was in high school, was very short.
yep.
He was, excuse me, I think he was like 5'4", and played hockey. Well, he's not going to be,
Yeah.
there are certain things now he grew a foot in college or
Yeah.
something, or close to it. But it's amazing and they learn to know where they fit in a team.
Yep.
And it isn't necessarily, it was always nice to watch them and see other teammates that watch their teammates and support them.
Basketball in the 1970s, when I graduated in 77, but it was almost like a town event. We had everybody that the town would come out to our games. We would play Friday night home games every night, and that gym, you know, you think that there's 1,000 people in there. There's not. You know,
Yeah.
there might be 300 to 400 people in
That's
there.
more than
but
town
that-
meeting.
That's more than that's more than it could. You know, you could fit in that gym. There were people standing alongside the
Yeah.
walls, and it was a great event. You felt really proud.
There was no fire codes then.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. And, you know, the police chief was always at the game, and, you know, the school principal, if he wasn't coaching, he was at the game. Larry Kelleher coached for many years, and he became the school principal after. But, you know, it was a nice town event. You had less people living in town, so, you know, you say there was less than 3% that turned out to vote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we had 400 people show up for a basketball game, and there was 3,000 people in town, right? So that's more than 10% of the town showing up for our basketball game. So it's pretty cool.
And they always had good teams also. It was a sport
Well,
that the
yeah,
town
we-
excelled in
we-
at that
our-
time.
My sophomore year, we went 22-0, and yeah, we had my junior and senior year, we were really good too, and we, you know, went into the state tournament, and that was a big deal back
It was
then.
fun.
Yeah,
Well,
fun.
well, when I was in school, it was a big deal. And
Yeah.
I went to Lowell High, and it was just a big deal.
Yeah. And, you know, when Tingsboro High opened up in, what was it, 67 or 68, somewhere around there.
68, I
And
believe.
now all the kids that went to out of town all came to Tingsboro for the first time, right, for the high school. And all these teachers, like Buzzy McHale, were right out of college. They were very young, and all of them. They
Yeah.
were young, it was their first jobs, and boy, did they instill that school spirit in that town to have all those young coaches.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see now, you know, you have graduates of Tingsboro High School, young coaches that are now coaching
Yeah.
at the
Well,
school.
that's the natural way
Yeah.
of it, isn't it? It's how it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
they don't sometimes, so.
Yeah.
Well, I said to John coming in, one of my pet peeves in Lowell has always been that in Lowell, and I don't see it in Tingsboro at the bridge, they always block the intersection. They always block. You know you're not going to fit, and you end up blocking the intersection so somebody can't come through. And I was coming up the Lord overpass this morning, and of course a cruiser was blocking it. So
Okay.
now I know why everybody else doesn't know. I was like out of my mind.
I go over the bridge, and when I go, you know, from the east side to the west side, I live on the east side, my facility's on the west side, so across the Tingsboro Bridge. And if you go down, you know, 8 o'clock, 8:30, if you're happen to be that time, I'd like to be earlier because there's less traffic, but you have merging traffic. And I always say that the more pleasant people are going to just slow down, create a little space, and let
Yeah.
somebody merge in. And then there's other people that will go right up to your tailgate and make sure that they don't leave.
Yeah.
But doesn't that tell you a little bit about the people
Yes.
that are driving
And
those
how their
vehicles?
day is going to be, right.
Yeah,
It must be a real joy to work with.
Oh my God! It's just like, how difficult is it just to let one car in?
I know.
It's, or like you say, so there's another spot coming up where the people that are coming from the west to the east, they've crossed the bridge, you can take a left-hand turn onto Sherburne. So why block that intersection?
I
And
know.
now those people can't make that left-hand
Yes,
turn.
yes.
Why do that?
It
Yes.
doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen, and they
It happens, I think, a lot during the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I tend to drive that a little bit more in the day now, running an errand or something, and people just love to come right through there and block that, and I don't know why.
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
How
You
about,
know,
how about my
some
wife's
things.
pet peeve? Where the light's yellow, it's a dead red light now. And people continue to go through the red light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that happen in
Yeah, I
Tingsboro?
mean, it's, yes.
the bridge.
You have to, or where Westford Road comes down to 3A there, Middlesex. You have to, when your light goes green, you have to still look both
Oh,
directions. 'Cause some
don't
days inevitably
ever.
flying down Middlesex.
At the Kingsborough Bridge, don't ever, just, if you were the first one, don't go.
Well,
Always look.
I often, if
Yeah,
I'm
you gotta look.
coming across the bridge from east to head west, and you're in that left turn lane by Town Hall, I often kind of shy away from being that first car. I've seen so many cars clipped because people try to run the light coming the other direction, from Pheasant Lane Mall to take the left across the bridge. People
Absolutely.
cut that corner and
So-
hit cars all the time.
Well,
I've seen
one
some,
of
so-
the things I've been doing is now, if I'm stuck in traffic, a big long line at the bridge that shouldn't be there, it's because the sequence of the lights are
Yeah.
not correct,
Yeah.
and that's controlled by the state. So you see people complaining about
Yep.
that. And so I'll take a picture of the line of traffic, through my windshield, and I send it to Colin.
You're a nice guy.
Well, no,
But
because
they said it. You're-
they change the sequence and then they overcompensate, so they create traffic somewhere else.
That's
And they
right.
just can't seem to get it right.
You're right, because it goes all the way up Kendall Road.
It shouldn't
Yeah.
take you more than a few minutes to cross the bridge.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
and sometimes you're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes. If you're coming from the east to west and on the boulevard, sometimes it backs up almost to the golf course, the old Tingsboro Country Club. And that's a
More
that's a pretty
often
good-
than not.
Yeah.
in the afternoon. So, that's,
Corey wants to give you your time.
okay.
Oh, no worries.
Oh,
So,
that's a-
so they're, I just so, Colin can call the state and say, no, you don't have it right yet.
Yeah.
And they keep coming back and
Yes.
adjusting it, and you have to have a different sequence when school's in session because of the buses and more traffic going to the schools, and, yeah.
That taking the left from if you come down from the Pheasant Lane Mall, going towards Chelmsford, taking that left, they're always working.
Running that light.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, I was coming and just coming straight down Middlesex. And my daughter happened to be home and in the car, and we were stopped at that light, and the left-hand lane turns to go across the bridge. Well, we were in the far right lane. That middle lane that also goes straight, didn't even look up at the light, just when the other car started going, took off. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, you don't have a green light. So how many people just don't even pay attention?
Yeah.
They just see out of the corner of their eye another
Well-
car going. I mean, it was crazy. She was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, somebody's gonna get hit. And I'm like, yeah, that's.
It happens a lot.
You
It's the
see it.
Kingsborough Bridge, yeah.
And then I like the sign in the center. I really do. It's not I don't always like the graphics of it, but that sign in the center is nice. But man, you get people that stop to try to read that sign and they've missed their light cycle. It's positioned just right so everybody can really see
Yeah.
it. And I've been guilty of it myself, of just being like, oh, what was that? And look, and then all of a sudden someone's got their horn on behind you. And
Yeah.
Try driving down to Georgia with a truck and a trailer down the highway 1,300 miles and see how many crazy things you see on the highway, with people driving. It's like, oh, you got to be so defensive. You have to be-
Speaking of that, Rick,
Yes.
do you have any insight on what happened with the gigantic bee truck? 18-wheeler?
It's sometimes when
There was an accident where it flipped over or
Yeah, I
something?
know what happens.
Well, maybe the girls don't know.
So, well, you know what John's referring to recently in the last few days in the news in Washington State, there was a tractor trailer loaded with pallets of honeybees, which they truck for pollination, across the country. Like right now, well, they did, now it's over, but up in Maine, they were bringing truckloads of bees up there to pollinate the blueberries.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what's going to happen is, what's in season now is the cranberries.
I was gonna say, you do cranberry bogs, right?
Yeah, so usually if some years the timing's great where they can just take them out of the blueberries and bring them down to cranberries. But anyways, it was in the news, there was a tractor trailer that flipped over with, all these bees. Tractor trailers can hold about 400 to 450 colonies of bees, and sometimes they're on four-way pallets and sometimes they're on six-way pallets. And if a lot of times on and off ramps on the highway, that how you make that turn, well, if you're going too fast and the load is not balanced, then it can flip over. And so it happens at least 10 times a year across
Really?
the country.
Wow.
Yeah, but sometimes one will get more publicity than another one. And this one in Washington got a lot of publicity, and then it gets, put on all the social media challenges, and you see, a tractor trailer on its side and beehives everywhere and bees flying, and they'll call the local beekeepers to come in and with their suits and their smokers and try to put everything back together. But it's a mess. And so hives can weigh different amounts. So when you're loading up those tractor trailers, if you don't know, if you have a machine that doesn't tell you the weight of that pallet, you might put all heavy ones on one side, and that can imbalance the trailer.
Well, I'm shocked at 10 a year. I thought that was a novel thing.
All the time, all the time. And this is why, I'm just a small guy. I'm trucking packages of bees, which is for people to start colonies. So mine's a little screen box. There's 10,000
Yeah.
bees in each box, but I have 700 of them. So 700 times 10,000 is a lot of bees, but mine are in an enclosed trailer. However, if somebody hit me on the highway or drove me off the road or anything, it would be it would be a problem.
Yeah.
It's and it's the value, the dollar value of my load is over $100,000 in bees. The value of this tractor trailer, that's 450 times 200. That's a lot of money.
Now, I didn't realize they actually take all the bees,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of bees, they go up to Maine
Yes.
for the blueberries, and then they go down. When do they do the apples?
So apples.
Wait a second, before you do apples. So this truck was coming from Washington State going to Maine?
No. So on the East Coast, we do different agricultural products.
Okay, good. We'll
Right.
go to the apples then, never
So
mind.
if they were moving bees in Washington State, it could have been for blueberries or it could have been for apples. Different things bloom at different times in different parts of the country, right? And so blueberries in Maine are generally late April, early May, and where apples are usually first week of May and sometimes second week of May. But now with the climate change, everything's messed up. Things are 2 weeks earlier, 2 weeks later. It depends.
How has the rain kind of affected that pollination
so
cycle?
rain,
Because
yeah.
you still see, even despite all the rain we've had, I went out and cleaned off my deck table to eat there the other night, and it was like this thick of pollen.
Pollen, right. So bees don't fly in the rain. So if the apples happen to be blooming and it's raining and cold, the apples don't get a good pollination, and that's the same for any crop. So yeah,
I didn't know they
that's
didn't
called
fly in the
farming.
rain. They won't fly in the rain?
No, there's a small bee, and if they get wet, they can't fly. A few drops of rain on a honeybee is going to prevent it from flying.
Oh.
So, that's farming. You need the proper amount of rain, the proper amount of sunshine, the proper amount of pollination.
So
It's like-
next year's crop isn't going to be very good if it's, but we've had rain a lot.
So we've had a lot of rain, but the apples, I believe there was pretty good windows when the apples were in blossom. So I haven't heard anything. The other thing you have to worry about with apples is, we have Parley Farms in Kingsborough, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually, when I watch him do interviews, he explains it very well. The cold can also affect. So they have these giant fans in some apple orchards that will blow to keep the frost from falling down onto the trees and damaging the buds. But last year, peaches bloomed before apples, and it got really cold. before they even flowered, all the buds got frozen and they didn't have a
Remember
peach
that,
crop.
we didn't have a
Okay.
peach crop,
Yeah.
because we like to go
So
peach picking.
that's what,
Yeah.
farming's all about is the weather.
Wow. I didn't know they moved them that much.
Oh, yeah.
I knew in town, I kind of follow them.
Well, the first pollination, and this is the biggest pollination in the country, is they bring in millions of colonies to California for almonds. So almonds are 100% dependent on pollination. And honeybees
know that.
do 90% of all pollination because honeybee colonies are big. And so, yeah.
How are they doing? We went through a period, the honeybee was in trouble. Are they still?
Yeah, it's still, it's such a challenge. There's so many things.
Haven't they cut back? Haven't people cut back? And
So, people will say, what's the biggest problem? And I said, it's a combination. It's not what's bigger, but number one, the bees have parasites. Number two, we have weather issues. Number three, we have an overuse of pesticides that harm bees. So there you go in a nutshell.
I thought that they were stopping a lot of that. Of course, the public, they won't eat an apple if it's got a
Well,
boot.
I was talking to Rodney Elliott.
Hey, Lynn, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I can get milk.
Okay.
I was talking to Rodney Elliott about there's legislation right now to ban the use of neonicotinoids, and like corn, and most growers in Massachusetts, they have seeds coated with neonicotinoids, and those chemicals get into the ground and it can affect that area for years.
Really?
Yes, and so that's a nerve agent that will kill pollinating insects, not just honeybees, but butterflies and bumblebees, and we have thousands of pollinators. You can even say hummingbirds. So we put those poisons and we apply them to our what we grow, and then they get leached into the ground and into the waterways, and ultimately it has an effect on our honeybees and everything. So it's a major issue. So New York, Vermont, and Quebec area, they got together and they put it through legislations to phase out neonicotinoids. See, the pesticide companies, I won't name them all, right? But we know who the big ones are. And they will push these seeds onto the growers, and they'll say, you'll have 20% more crop. If you don't use them, you'll have, 50% less crop. And a lot of that, it's just not true.
Yeah.
So you have to have, a working relationship with the growers to not overuse pesticides, and don't use pesticides that are extremely harmful to the pollinators. So that's one of the big issues that we deal with.
Now, you see a lot of people now spraying for like ticks and everything, especially if you have, you're up above a wooded area. And, I've seen where, like, one person sprays and it just drives everything, just across the neighborhood. And so it almost becomes everybody's got to spray for ticks or something, because they're just moving, across the area. Like, does that type of pesticide have effect?
I always say, you want to talk to a good pesticide company, call any pesticide company up and say, I have honeybees, and see how many of them hang up on you. So they can use organic.
Well, so that's what I'm looking at for my yard, because I'm now in the squished in area where I've, neighbors around me have sprayed or have, one neighbor has chickens, and I think that takes care of their ticks. But, my dogs can't go outside without coming in with a tick. I mean, just even now, every day, every time they're out, even in our backyard. So I've looked at some organic things, because we have a sizable garden, and I'm also just, I'm up against the school, so I'm very sensitive to what goes out in that yard because kids are playing right up on the fence line and things. But
Yeah, I had a.
it's just interesting how that, you know,
Yeah, I've had a lot,
transpires.
even on the Board of Selectmen, right? We had a joint vote whether we were gonna spray for mosquitoes
Yeah.
in town. Listen, I'm all to control mosquitoes, but if we really wanna have a serious conversation, it's gonna go beyond having a truck that can spray 20 feet to either side and basically spray, going towards your house. There's a reason they tell you to shut your windows and don't run your AC when they're spraying for mosquitoes. There's a reason for that. And so, we have to find better ways of controlling. We've had Tripoli and Kingsborough and, West Nile virus and all those things that come in that you got to be careful. But to do certain methods that are totally ineffective is a waste of money and it's a waste of time and it's damaging the environment.
Well, people are lazy. I mean, you just need to, one of the things is you need to pay attention to your yard and get rid of any standing water. There are certain things that the homeowner should be doing to help this whole situation.
Yeah.
But you can speak about ticks
Well,
because you have gone.
Mike Alberto gave us a packet, I swear it was that thick, right? And it was all about mosquito spraying. And so what the state does is it compensates communities that spray, and they have certain companies that you can hire
Right.
for each area, and it's not a county area, it goes beyond that. And so, and I almost say, well, you're compensating or paying for 50% or 60% or 80%, whatever you do, to, spray ineffectively. But these companies, some of them are better than others, depending on the products that they
Yeah.
use. And again, Michael Alberto gave me all the information. He gave it to all the select board members and the members of the Board of Health. And it actually came down to my vote.
I remember
And
that I was on the school
and
commitee.
Yeah,
And it
I
was
voted
going to
no.
affect our sports season.
And they were saying, but it's, these sprays that they do, it's not going to change, a sports field or anything like that. It's very ineffective. And like you said, it's more effective to go and manage marsh areas and storm drains and that type of stuff would be much more effective.
Yeah.
Well, because weren't we in the area, I mean, I remember this because it would have affected, a lot of, and it did alter a little bit, not so much ours because it was the end of the season, I think it was. But, depending on how they spray, whether they go and do ground spraying or they come and do aerial spraying, like we were on a ground spray, right? Like they were going to just drive through targeted areas of town. And again, not every area of town, just targeted ones. So unless you're doing it all, is it as effective either, right?
Probably
Like,
not. Probably not.
You
And
just drive them to another area.
It's just to
of
pat
town.
yourself
Yeah.
in the back, feel good that everybody's so, yeah.
my house borders the Tingsboro, Lowell, Drake State Forest. You come down my road and spray 20 feet, and you think that's going to do anything to the state forest, mosquitoes in the state forest? That's absolutely nothing. It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes.
Good lobby,
Yeah, it's, but,
but it does cause damage. Not only is it a waste of
yeah,
money, but it causes damage.
you have to take precautions and, I can't use chemicals on my clothing and on my boots like you could if you were taking a walk through a field and you were concerned about ticks because I handle the bees. So if I have that on my body or if the bees are landing on me and I have it on my clothes, I'm going to poison and kill them.
So do the tick sprays that people are putting like on their lawns, does that have an effect?
It depends what it is because there's so many different products. Yeah.
And it was interesting because when they were spraying my neighbor's yard, we went out and it's kind of like the paving company. You see them out doing somebody's driveway and you're like, hey, how much to swing over and, fix mine? And they'll give you a deal if you pay them in cash. The guy said, oh, we can't even do that anymore because of all the paperwork and all the legalities of the chemicals we're putting down. We have to, you have to go through this rigmarole. So that kind of made me think like, okay, like,
Yeah.
what are you actually putting down here? I mean,
Yeah.
not a knock on my neighbor. I love my neighbors.
Well-
They're great people. But it just kind of opened my eyes to like, what exactly are you putting? And now I see all these ticks just migrating from their yard to
Little
mine.
backpacks coming over.
Well,
I mean,
they're-
my daughter has me militant about it.
Roundup, look at the major lawsuit against
Yeah.
Roundup, and how that's affected people's lives. It's like asbestos, and those cancer-causing poisons that they use. It's, I think the movement is going to safer products, but that wheel is turning very slow. So in the mass legislature, it's going to come up, and that we're trying to phase out the use of neonicotinoids.
Now, would that be in when we buy seeds?
Oh, so
How do you know?
Linda, 90% of all chemicals sprayed, right, poisons that are put into our soils, 90% are done by homeowners going to their local, farm and store. I'm not going to name any stores, but those products are overused in homes. So 90%. It's not the farming. They do use it too, but the farmers know, and they're very responsible in their spraying. But homeowners use 90% of all the chemicals.
We have some bunnies that have gotten very big.
They're on steroids.
Oh, my God. They just sit there. They just sit there. And
I'll loan you my dogs. They've caught more bunnies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're,
Yeah. The hawks and the owls are.
the owls,
they
I'm
go-
afraid of my cat with the owls. We have an owl.
Oh, yeah, if they get hungry enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
They
my dogs have killed more rabbits in my
And
backyard.
if
but-
we're talking about too, the poisons, I'd like to mention that, they have now poisons for rodents that don't affect the wildlife of
Yeah.
owls. Because if those rodents die and then a hawk or an owl or any of
So
those
that was
birds of
on the-
prey, they can poison those birds,
Yeah.
eagles. And so you got to read the labels and
I
just
think that was
be
on the
careful.
news recently, right? There's been a lot of talk about
Yeah.
banning
yeah.
those
I've
certain
always had animals. So
pesticides that, affect the food chain
Yeah,
longer
yeah.
down the road.
it is. It's, I've got a cat and
And I think in Boston, they banned certain ones for rats because, again, they found it was
Yeah.
going further down the line than just killing the rats.
the consumer has to kind of,
educated.
belly up here because they, again, as I said, they don't want an apple that has anything on it, they want the perfect apple, and you sort of want to say, that's what the witch got in the,
Yeah.
You sure you want that apple?
Yeah.
But it's an educational thing, and they just, I don't know what you do with that because
You educate and it takes
yeah,
a long
they
time.
spray.
It takes
so
a
your
long
food
time.
lasts longer and all that.
Well, little fungus will grow on, or there'll be a scab on the apple, or there'll be a worm in the apple, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
So
We lived through it though. I remember when I grew up, they didn't have all these things, and so you just cut the bloody worm out. Big deal.
I would say I was never a big person to wash my fruit before I ate
Oh.
it. Now I do.
Oh, I wash everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wash everything.
But I didn't. as
And
a
I'm
kid.
not sure, how much we get off when we just wash. But
I
is
don't
it
know.
that?
I don't know.
It's
yeah,
gotten to
it's
that
a concern.
point that
Yeah.
when you're talking about it's in the seeds, that's a little
Yeah.
that's frightening
Yep.
to me.
Yep. Yeah. They.
I,
Hopefully they see the value of using different products, and they see the value of, a lot of times in certain years, and let's say a farmer's growing corn, they don't even sell all their corn. So would a 10% reduction affect them in certain years, it may not. There's, like I said, there's a great program in New York and Vermont and Quebec, and people are using that model to
Oh, good.
to submit it to their own state legislators. But it's a process that takes time.
How about the lawn stuff? Everybody that wants the perfect lawn.
Again, they have organic treatments, they have different treatments. And when I'll go back to the mosquito spraying, when I had the big packet, one of the things I read up on was each company was using a different product. And then some were very harmful to pollinators and others were not.
But when you're in those consortiums like that, I think I also remember from the state, like, you don't necessarily know what's going out on yours, right? Until, like, you're assigned that lot. Like, you go into that program, and as more communities or less communities around you, then they shop that out, and then you,
There was one vendor for every area.
Okay.
And they were state contracts.
right. That's
So-
what I mean, like, you go in and you don't know when you're going into it.
No, and the other thing is when they spray, they're supposed to spray at night when the pollinators are not flying, and it hits those areas, and then it's less harmful to the pollinators after a certain amount of hours. But no, they'd be going right in the middle of the
Yeah.
day because they can't do everything at night.
Yeah.
So boom, they'd be spraying right in the middle of the day. Even
you-
farmers don't spray in the daytime. They
Oh,
spray
really?
late at night or early in the morning, so it doesn't affect the pollinators.
Are you getting, is there still a rise in people wanting to have bees and make their own
Yeah,
honey?
that one is so hard to measure. So I've been teaching beekeeping classes for 25 years or more in Tingsboro, and I have another one in Acton Boxborough. I used to do one in Lincoln, but I do a lot of seminars, and one of my employees does a lot of talks on bees too. So it's people. It's a very difficult thing. So people get in, and then they might keep bees for 2 or 3 years and they quit, but you're always bringing new people in, and then some people do it for their whole life. So it's a hard thing to measure, but, we still have a lot of people keeping bees. I gave bees out this spring out of the colony. I gave bees to over 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And
Wow.
that's all in a 8-week period.
How much honey would an average homeowner make?
So I would say that the quick answer to that is a hive of honeybees should be able to do 50 pounds a year. Now, I used to have some that would do over 200 pounds, and then you have others that do none. But I would say a good hive, if it doesn't swarm and everything's right, and it's the weather, like it's been raining, so the
Yeah.
bees have not been foraging during the rain. So they're not bringing any honey, they're consuming honey. So now they have to replace what they ate and then start storing honey. So, but, I would always say I thought 60, 70 pounds would be an average hive would do in the summertime.
That's a lot of honey.
Yep.
That's a lot of honey.
Yep. So, and it's always rewarding for a beekeeper to
Yeah.
harvest honey out of their own hive. And once they do, I have people that say, "Oh, back 5 years ago, I did 300 pounds in my yard, but I haven't done anything since." and then it's 12 pounds to a gallon. So,
okay.
if you're let's say
Wow.
an easy one is let's say you did. A 5-gallon bucket is 60 pounds. So
Yeah.
60 pounds of honey would be 5 gallons.
So what do people, so this person gets their hives, and they get all this 50 pounds of honey, and they say, gee, I don't need to do this for a few years. You have to keep maintaining your hives.
Right, right.
So what happens to the little hives if they don't?
Sometimes so the boxes themselves, if they're maintained, they can last a lifetime. But the frames, because of what we've been talking about, right? You get little residues of pesticide, or there may be virus in the hive, there might be bacteria. So with the frames, we switch them out every 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And so that doesn't happen because it's not healthy for the bees. The bees are always healthier when they're building brand new wax. So if you put brand new frames in and they build brand new wax,
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's healthier for the bees.
I mean, we've got a few bears in town. There's probably been more than enough.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
more than.
I had a visit
killed,
2 nights ago.
You know, quite a few. Did you lose a lot?
no, just it tipped over a couple of hives, so I didn't lose anything. But a friend of mine,
If they get tipped over, can they, like, the bees aren't going to get crushed? They'll survive in there?
it depends. It's almost like, if the bear just gently pushes the hive over and the bees come out and sting their nose, they'll run away. But most of my hives are behind electric fences.
Oh.
But if it's a hive that's smaller, the bear will pull the frames out, and the bees kind of stay to the area where the hives are, so the bear pulls the frames that it pulls, it walks away, so there's no bees stinging it, and then it'll eat like the brood in the hive, which is the eggs and larvae and pupa, because that's protein. It's like digging up grubs in the ground. That's why the bears does that. And then it will, lick the honey too. But a friend of mine left my place on Monday morning, and 2 minutes after he left my place, he said, "Hey, I'm not even a half a mile up the road. A bear just ran in front of me." So I went out and looked outside, and one of my guys said, "Yep, they knocked 2 hives over in the back corner."
I mean, you've seen that people, posted everywhere that the bears just come up through there and are out quite
Yeah.
ferociously
That's
right
interesting.
now.
You have an electric fence to keep the bears out.
Yeah, and you know what we do, John? We bait them. So we put a piece of bacon on the fence, so the bear will lick the fence and get a nice shock. And if you have,
Well, that's a bit nasty.
a little bit.
Antisocial
bit.
behavior towards the bears.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
It's not enough to, damage.
So they know don't
Just
come there,
enough
go
to-
down the street.
Well,
Go down to Morton's.
And watch them, because we have trail cams, game cameras out, and you'll see after a bear gets shocked, the next night when it comes through, it won't go by that pen. It'll stay away from it.
Well.
And then when they get shocked, they turn and run. So it's,
Yeah.
a little,
Now,
little zap.
you mentioned, I think one of the first times you were on the show, and it really made an impression on me. When you see a sign that you look and it says local honey,
Local honey, yeah.
that doesn't mean it was from Tingsboro, does it?
No.
Can be from Canada.
That's right. Isn't
Well,
it a 500?
It's 500 miles. That's
See,
what the
people don't
government
realize
says.
that.
The government says the definition.
Same thing with eggs, same thing with milk.
Yeah, so what we've done is we have a new label that we brought in 2 years ago called Colony Blossom.
Yes.
And that's the honey that's produced right on our property and immediately around our property. So that is probably, all those colony blossoms are within a couple of miles of the colony.
Okay. So when they say orange,
Orange blossom, I have that, yes.
so that's.
I put it right on the label from Florida beekeepers.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I have friends, down,
Yeah.
that
And I
pollinate.
suppose you send blueberries and apple to
So blueberries, there's,
more.
I always say this, what's the number one agricultural product in Georgia? You would guess all these melons or peaches or all this, but the number one agricultural product in Georgia is blueberries. So
Really?
Yeah. So they can produce blueberry, nectar. They can get nectar from blueberries and have blueberry honey. In any areas, Washington State, a lot of blueberries, and Maine, a lot of blueberries. So sometimes, not all the time, you sometimes you have those bees out there for several weeks, and they're not producing honey. They're just producing enough to keep themselves going. So you don't produce a blueberry crop every year, not necessarily. Canada has a lot of blueberries, yeah. So they'll have some blueberry honey sometimes.
Well, and we always had all the cranberries. But I suppose that's
Yeah.
changed, the bugs.
No, the cranberries, they grow cranberries now in different areas of the country. Washington, again, it has cranberries, but it's hard on the growers because they depend on the price. So sometimes it
a little more
costs them
expensive, yeah.
more to produce than what they're selling. And, when the price is driven down. So if there's more cranberries out in the market and the demand is less, I think a lot of people down that area, that South Shore and the Cape where a lot of cranberry bogs are, they are also get an agricultural exemption on their taxes. So, it's like, 60A and 60B and all those things. If you have a large area and if you use it for agricultural, you don't pay the same tax rate.
How often do you have to move your hives?
No, most of my hives, 90% of my hives are not moved.
They're not moved.
Brenda, would you read this question to Rick?
Oh, is it true that consuming honey produced in the area you live in can help with allergy symptoms?
So we get that question a lot, and so I can just tell you that it helps a lot of people that I know. So there's no medical claims that you could make. And people think that it has to be a certain distance from your home. They'll say, oh, I got to have honey 5 miles from my house. No. What's more important, like there's no difference in clover that's that has pollen in it, right? In Kingsborough or Chelmsford or Lowell or Westford or, all our surrounding areas. It's all the same. The clover is all the same. The sumac bushes are all the same, all the things that produce honey. So what's more important is how that honey is handled by the beekeeper. So if the beekeeper extracts the honey and doesn't filter it, which most small beekeepers, none of them have, filtration equipment. So what you do is you make sure you don't overheat it because that will damage the pollen grains in the honey. And you can strain it because straining doesn't remove any ingredients. So raw honey helps a lot of people with allergies because they're taking a little bit of pollen and it's just helping your immune system develop so that pollen won't affect you as much.
So would people that have immune system issues, should they consume more honey?
So we sell pollen, honeybee, produced,
30 seconds.
our bees bring in pollen and we harvest that and we put it in jars. So people that are looking for additional protein or help with their immune system,
We got to go.
then yes, it helps them.
Be back.
Okay, we'll be back. Welcome back to City Life, and welcome to the new people. I'm Linda Bown, I'm your host. I have Corey Belanger, City Councilor.
Good morning.
I have Hillari Wennerstrom, former school committee woman and select woman, and Rick Rowe, former selectman for many, many years, and also the beekeeper that was entertaining us with all the stories
The
of the
beekeeper.
bees. And
The Beekeeper movie 2's coming out, so you gotta watch that.
Yeah, we were discussing the marijuana plants, and now I do know that the rain had an effect because my Russian fig, which smells wonderful, and I get a lot of bees at it, the rain just knocked all the flowers off early,
Right,
so it was depressing for me
yes.
because I look forward to that Russian.
If you have lilacs, though, they're in crazy bloom right now.
Yes,
All the black locust trees, you'll see they're tall and they have big clusters of white flowers hanging down. They got all washed out too.
yeah.
See, in the city, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
I'll have to bring you out to the colony.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd
Oh,
love to.
everybody should go out
education
to
on
the
honeybees.
colony.
It'd be a retreat.
Yep.
It's a great educational thing. In fact, I'll bring my grandchildren down.
Yeah, we
because-
have the observation hive going now
Yeah,
too, so
they'd
it looks
enjoy
good.
that. So Corey, what's going on? I know you're up for re-election.
Yep, busy campaign
Yeah,
season, Linda.
I saw that you had a town hall.
It's coming this Saturday.
Yeah. You excited about that? What
Very,
do you
very
think?
much. It's the first one since the districts have been, the new system's been set up. This will be the first district town hall. So it's going to be at the Riley School this Saturday, 11 to 1. Very excited. Sent out a mail. I've gotten some great responses.
What are your issues in your district?
Well,
Yeah.
basically, it's the basics, Linda. It's, speeding, sidewalks, streets, open spaces. So we're going to talk about a lot of things, get input, and
The
see what.
paving of Andover Street?
Yes, the paving. I got an update there too. Give them updates on all the paving, streets that are being paved, the parks that are being upgraded, Colley Stadium improvements, Shed Park, Andover Street, a lot on the docket.
So what's going on with courthouses? You said that this state
Yes,
gonna release them.
Governor Healy, actually, it was well publicized, had an open forum and announced approximately 17 state properties that will be, that she would like to see go to the private sector and be converted to housing. Two of which were in Lowell, the district courthouse and the Superior Courthouse. So I went in there, the city manager was there along with some DPD officials, and it was well attended. Some developers in the room, no real big leads on this day in particular, but it's good to see we got some advertisement there, and so what I'm going to do is come in with a motion for Tuesday night for the council to discuss the acquisition of both the potential acquisition of the district, which we already do have possession of, but it's the more or less Lowell Superior Courthouse, a possible acquisition of that property, discuss that, and the vision of what the council has in mind, as well as the administration. So it's going to be a good dialogue what to do. But once we take it over, you own it, you got to maintain it, and so if you get stuck, you're on the hook for some maintenance for years to come potentially, and that's very much on my mind. But two very important pieces in the city that could be converted to housing or commercial, retail, whatever it may be, that we can get back on the tax rolls, Linda, which is very important.
Well, I'd like to
So,
see that.
looking forward to that dialogue. And McD, you're a stakeholder right here, or you're a butter at the Superior, so I'll be curious to hear your input as well.
When I get a microphone that's working out.
Wow,
Yeah, you're usually very,
I know, I can't believe it,
vocal.
yeah.
Well, and you'll be taking out paper soon. When is it? June?
10th, next Tuesday, yep, June 10th.
So, lucky you.
Every
Off-
2 years, too
We've all
short,
been
yeah.
there, done
Yeah,
that.
Right, my God.
Yeah.
So is your thought the city would take it over and benefit from that, or that you would let the state develop it, and the city obviously still benefits with the tax?
Okay, thank you, Hillary, great question. As of right now, the city does have possession of the Lowell District on Hurd
Okay.
Street, the former. Now, that's a good location. You got the Inn and Conference Center across the street, you got the garage within 200 to 300 feet. So there's plenty of parking there. So the city does have possession, and right now it's slated to go out for RFP in summer of this summer for the Lowell. So the administration is going to create a vision for what we have in mind for that property and put it out for RFP, and that's what I want to discuss. I mean, time is of the issue of very much DPD and the administration is very much on top of this, but I'd like a discussion from the body as well.
And now I have Mr. Microphone on, so I'll go.
Okay, and let me finish on the Superior Courthouse. That is slated to be auctioned by the state in the fall, and then, Hillary, we won't have control of what
Yeah.
goes there. But it's not too late. The time has expired where we can acquire it, but there's language in there where we could still grab it, but we don't have much time. So that's why I want to talk about this sooner rather than later.
Well, so far as downtown's concerned, the district courthouse on Hurd Street,
Yes,
you guys should grab that,
we did.
kick the cops over there, kick the fire department over there, and tear down the JFK Civic Center and build something we can be proud of, and then have the cops and the fire department move back next door to City Hall. I think that'd be the best move temporarily, because the JFK Civic Center, it's sunset. The sun's gone down on that facility.
Oh, I hear you.
And, you keep, there's Band-Aids, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, but maintenance is not in our language in Lowell. We love to cut ribbons. We don't like to take care of stuff. So I think that,
Are you referring to the Smith-Baker Center?
I'm referring to every school we have. Rogers School across the street.
We
They
have
hope-
not done too good a job, I
They,
agree.
they hope it's not raining on voting day, so they don't have to put the buckets in the hallway. And that's what we have in lovely Lowell. So far as the Superior Courthouse, I love new neighbors. I'm happy to get new neighbors, always nice people, as long as they have a place to park. They all come with cars.
Yeah, you got a surface lot across the street.
They have plenty of grass there. And there's not enough room for all the condos you could put in that building. And most condos come with at least 2 cars. Parking's always going to be an issue. And in lovely Lowell, we threw that parking thing right out the window. So they should make the city council park in the garage and walk to the meeting and see how they like no parking. Because that's what they tell the residents to do. We're going to pay taxes on that new condo until the sun burns out. What zippity doo dah parking? Thanks to the city council's adoption of the rule, you don't have to have parking.
The MBTA Communities Act, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Well, that, we had to. We
you
didn't, that was
didn't.
basically
There were
for, we
options.
could have, but
There were
can we
options.
afford to lose state money? I don't think so.
There were options.
There was options, but we're revisiting that. For instance, the Superior Court here, what's funny is the building itself is within the MBTA zone. Now, is that walkable to the train station? Yes.
That's
But
why I say
how
you
about in
should
January,
park
you
there at the
know,
meeting. You should park there at the meetings and walk down Dutton Street to the meeting. That's what I think you guys should do.
Look, downtown condos, McD, does not come, you're downtown, it does not come with a parking spot on the street.
Gotcha.
There are businesses there as well,
I got you.
okay? So
But
you know.
don't beat you up about
we're-
parking. It's
Downtown
your
residents,
colleagues, let it happen. There's 11 of you. And I'm just, when they're, see, at least you can take a question like that. I have city councilors that if you ask them an embarrassing question, they're never coming back.
no, I'm down, absolutely. And I defend,
And that's
you know,
not your way.
I do defend the MBTA Communities Act, because
Well, it isn't-
there's a lot of potential there right here around the courthouse. We need to create housing, increase the tax base, while we're not overcrowding residential neighborhoods like my district in Belvedere. It doesn't affect that in the least.
Okay, well, the
But I want to
geniuses-
build this tax base,
But
and that's the way to do
geniuses,
it.
just a second, are the geniuses that created more classroom space across the street didn't take any accommodation whatsoever for the teachers need a place to park. And thank God my hours of operation are opposite of the schools. So I told the principal of the school, if you need the parking lot, go right ahead and use it. And because when school's in session, we're good. And it works quite well. But why does the city continue to build stuff and not realize there's parking? You know, go over to the senior center. You should just sell the parking lot, put condos there. Let the seniors walk to the senior center.
You're contradicting yourself. You're saying now get rid of that parking and.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
build-
what the city should do. I mean, it's all about, when I went to the zoning board meeting to complain about Heinz's parking,
Yep.
one of the board members on the zoning board of appeals, or wherever it was, told me it's all about revenue. We don't.
To a
care-
point.
We don't
Not-
care,
yeah.
we don't care. You don't have a parking spot. We only care you have to pay your real estate taxes on that property you bought. And I said, okay, it's all about revenue.
I think the issue that John is talking about, it isn't the MBTA and that whole, the governor, and I would like to talk to you about why the governor hates Lowell, because she ended up closing all the homeless, and except for Lowell, the conference
Yeah,
center.
we're the
She
lucky
said-
ones, yes.
Yeah, what did you do? What did Lowell do that she hates you? I don't understand that.
Bet
But-
you she got no bad questions at her conference.
Oh,
She
my
got no
goodness,
bad
but
questions.
the parking issue, there's a part of that bill that the city waived, that they had to put the parking in. The Heinz is the big issue.
Yes, the Heinz, yeah. That's,
Because Heinz Tavern, there's just no parking.
well, this MBTA Communities Act has flaws, and this is one of them. Now, that potential development is on the fringes of the MBTA zoning, and that's considered walkable to, try walking there in January. That's, but with no parking, we don't agree with that. So we're going to revisit the MBTA zoning where it couldn't meet the downtown mixed use, which is one spot per unit.
Begs
We
the
won't-
question, when are you going to revisit that, Corey?
Sooner rather than later.
So
Nothing's on the radar now, but.
At the speed of government, you're going to fix that. Thank you.
He just wants to pay attention so he can be there.
Well, like George Anthes taught me, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yep.
Just keep squeaking. They don't like that squeak.
Well, I guess Lowell's got to squeak to the governor, because she's really slapping you. I mean, it's just, she has not been nice to
Yeah,
Lowell.
we can't
And she's
control
not-
that.
She doesn't, well, yeah, but I don't understand that. You have, and I like the manager. I don't understand his background in legislature and not being able to, they don't even talk to the people in Lowell. She doesn't even tell you, she didn't even tell you when she was going to take over the conference center. She didn't tell you, she didn't tell the manager, she didn't tell the reps. I mean, the arrogance of that. And I'm just curious. And then when she said, she made the big announcement that, everybody, I'm going to make sure that, I get the refugees all out of the people that came out of the properties, except in Lowell.
Except in Lowell, right. Okay, Linda, let me
Why
tell you
is
that
that?
one town. That is between, UMass Lowell owns the building.
Oh, Marty Meehan.
And it's state-owned.
Lowell.
And it's between UMass Lowell Building Authority and the state. We had little to do. Believe me, I wish we had input.
Yeah,
We
I
don't.
know you did, but
We
you
had no
didn't
say.
give you the courtesy of what you know.
Well, that's
if-
going to be discussed, part of the vision, when the ICC does become available, what's going to happen with that? It's too large to be a hotel. It's like 250 rooms. It was created when Wang Labs was right there. We all remember Wang Laboratories, a big high-rise on the connector. Well, those days are gone, and we can't sustain a 250-room hotel. But there's potential there for housing, to get that back on the tax rolls too. So, but for right now, it's out of our control. Believe me, we're not happy about it either. But there's not much we can do. It's sort of shoved down our throat, much
Yeah.
like the MBTA Communities Act, which has positives, but it has flaws too, with the parking requirements that are very loose, that are on the fringes of the district, the overlay district, that could potentially harm neighborhoods by all the parking flooding into the streets. So it's not perfect, Linda.
Oh, no, and it's not your fault, but
No.
I just don't understand. I guess I'm saying to the residents of Lowell, please don't vote for her again.
So Tingsboro's a non-factor, right, in the MBTA Communities Act?
No, we got
You got hit too? You got,
We
really?
got hit,
Okay.
and-
But
and-
It's gonna
they
transfer.
managed it well.
I mean, well, I guess that depends on who you talk to, because I think there's, the way that the district, overlay district went out, and where we could kind of fit it in, people weren't necessarily happy with that either, and it's costing us some infrastructure money for sure, wouldn't you
Well,
say?
yeah, and the thing is, but she doesn't provide any state transportation.
But as, Corey said,
No.
We were almost held a little hostage on it. Now, I know
Yeah.
communities have, I think it was Drake just recently rejected it, and I know there's some other wealthier communities that have rejected it. But when you look at like a Tewksbury or Lowell that do have a lot of dependency
Yes.
Yes. We're
on,
in-
state, whether it's grants or, other revenue, we didn't have a lot of choice. I felt we didn't have a lot of choice at the
Right.
time.
Yep.
And against my better judgment, we had to support it. Wouldn't you say, Rick, you were on the
agree.
start of that?
Yep.
But at least
But we're in the same
district-
position, Hillary.
Yeah.
We're in the same, we're no,
And-
in the federal government, everybody talks about the federal policies. Well, if you don't comply with this, DEI, whatever it may be, you're going to lose money. And that's unfair as well. But states doing the same thing. This was all shoved down our throats. You don't do it, you don't comply, you're going to lose money. And a city like Lowell, what are we to do? We can't afford to lose that.
You almost wish you had I like the auditor. I think she's got a lot of good things going for her, but you almost wish, you had that Joe DiNucci back there who was very, very keen on the state mandates and looked at things, and there was no unfunded mandates. So if this
Yeah.
was a mandate back from the state, they kind of used the funding they were going to hold you were going to lose
Yeah.
for it, but it really became an unfunded mandate in certain aspects.
Oh, of
For
course.
communities. And that was always,
Well,
Joe
the
DiNucci's
stormwater
big.
is, oh, good morning. How about the bottom of Fletcher Street? Fury's Bar, will that place have parking?
That's a good question. Thank you for bringing that up, whoever it may be. I don't have an answer for you right now. I haven't heard much on that property in some time. But thanks for putting it on the radar. If you want to send me an email, Councilor Corey Belanger @gmail.com or through the city website, please give me an email reminder, and I'll get an answer for you. And I'm glad thanks for bringing it up. I'll get you an answer.
I mean, parking is an issue though everywhere. As I was saying in the break, I was just in Denver, and you go anywhere downtown Denver, and, there's kind of parking garages situated or street, parking when it's available. But there isn't like we're accustomed to in, say, Tewksbury, where a business has to have so many spots,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
a restaurant or whatever. Like Boston, same thing. I mean, any major city, there's no parking in the cities.
No,
There's,
that's just
it's
it,
just
right, yeah, right.
inherent of what I
Yeah.
guess makes them different from a rural community.
Yep.
So I guess I'm surprised to see that there's such an uproar about it, because it's the same in any
Absolutely.
city. And,
Yep.
and Lowell is kind of a major city.
Yeah.
Oh, I know about it. I sat on a board and listened to it for hours ad nauseum.
Go ahead.
Phil Tebow, drink a tea.
Yep.
I asked, Phil, what's the story? How come Drake, the MBTA, they made the MBTA, my microphone on, sorry. They made the MBTA happy. They voted a version of, to keep their funding coming from the state. And you guys require parking. That there be parking for everybody who lives in the facility. And in Lowell, we required no parking. And Phil's takeaway from regulation is there were options. Lowell chose the option to give them the most opportunity to build without parking.
No, I think that's true.
Drake, on the other hand, said you can't build unless there's a place to park. What's your takeaway, Hillary?
Well, yes, there were some local options you could exercise within that. And again, parking. You also had some, if I recall correctly, and it's been almost 3 years now, or 2.5 years, you had some leeway with your local zoning, right, Rick? Like, your local parking regulations could play a factor in what you adopted. But I'm saying Lowell, as an urban area, obviously already had didn't require parking like, say, Tewksbury or Drake for businesses, because there's a lot of downtown businesses that don't have adequate, in some people's minds, parking.
Sure.
But that's an urban issue. It's not a suburban issue, because you wouldn't drive all the way to the Pheasant Lane Mall if you couldn't park there.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people that come to downtown Lowell and support those businesses, knowing you either have to park in a garage and walk a few distances. Now, again, I wouldn't do it for my home because I have a garage and I want to park in my garage and walk into my house. But, I know lots of people that loved their condos in Lowell because of what it afforded them. They would park their car in a garage and then they'd be able to walk to the grocery store, a restaurant. There's a lot of people that's the lifestyle that appears to them, and it's an urban issue. It's not just a Lowell issue. It's like going to Boston.
Sure.
Where do those people in Boston
Let
park?
me just give you a
In a parking garage.
practical
Not
application.
unique to Lowell, Hillary,
Practical
exactly.
application of what you're talking about, Hillary, okay? Down the street here, Coalition for a Better Acre bought the former St. Peter's property from Jim Cooney Insurance Company. Bought the whole property. And they said, we want to build a building there. I says, you're not going to build a building there unless you have parking. Oh, the people who are going to live there are so poor, they can't afford cars. So what they did was, at the zoning board of appeals meeting, they packed a bus load of their residents to live in the buildings where they live, brought them to a meeting, and they pled with the, so there I am, one-man army,
Yeah.
up against, probably 50 seniors behind me. And all I'm saying is, you guys are lying. You're going to have cars. Now, when you get down here today, take a look on South Street. The parking lots come, with these poor people who can't afford cars, they have a completely full parking lot, and then they have work trucks parked on South Street. So, because you can have a visitor. So,
Well, I'm not saying that
my
people-
complaint is, we are letting people build in your neighborhood, not just this neighborhood, in your neighborhood. Now, down here, Heinz's, they're going to have room for 13 cars, and they expect 70. They're going to park they're going to park all over the neighborhood. It's already congested now. Add 70 cars to it. It's not.
I
it's
don't
not a good-
disagree with
not a
you.
good
I'm just
future.
saying that's an inherent issue, and why some people choose an urban.
And you
Some
can't
people do,
build.
and but some people will. There's people that are blue in the face that'll say to you, "I'm living in this area because I want access. I want to have walking access to everything, and I'm not going to have a car." But they have a car, and they park it in a garage, or they park, public garage, or they park it on the street, and when they have to move, they have it. They're going to tell you they want the luxury of.
But Heinz's
Living
has, what are they gonna walk to?
The depot.
The depot,
Connector?
that's the
I mean,
idea
that's a
right
little
now.
dangerous, I
Yeah.
The
think.
depot, yep.
The idea is the
So look,
walkable to the train station.
I'm going to
That's
shut
the
your
DMV.
mics off. I'm going to do the announcements as quick as I can.
Yeah.
And you guys will be back. Your mics will go back on in a couple of minutes. Okay. These are all the neighborhood meetings. The Lowell Police is kind enough to put this on their website. Somehow I got a hold of it, and here it is. So the next neighborhood meeting is for the Highlands. It's going to be June 9th, 7 o'clock at Lowell Catholic. So all the neighborhood meetings are listed here. If your neighborhood meeting is not listed here, please be in touch with the Lowell Police Department or call any city council that you like, and they'll be sure that your neighborhood group gets included. Moving right along here, Farmers Market, a delicious time of year in lovely Lowell. Fresh vegetables, they're going to have them every Friday, June until October, 2 to 6 p.m. at 350 Dutton Street. Now, where that is you get down Dutton Street, heading towards City Hall, and there's a bridge there on the right-hand side where Broadway Street ends. Go over that bridge, and immediately on the left-hand side, you're going to see these folks who are selling fresh vegetables. There's also kinds of kids' games and food trucks. There's also a lot of activities happening down there this Friday. So today, I don't have Chelmsford's menu. I took a picture of this menu out of their bulletin, and the new menu isn't online yet for this Lowell Senior Center, but Lowell Senior Center is proud to have lunch 7 days a week. So today is Wednesday, June 4th. They're going to have American chop suey with garlic bread, $2. They go in there around 10:30 with your $2. Talk to Tara, and if you don't have the $2, you can eat for free. But 7 days a week, except the holidays. Juneteenth, they're going to be closed. But other than that, Saturday, Sunday, around 10:30, you're hungry, head over to the Lowell Senior Center. If you have somebody who needs prayers, call these gals here, the Monastery of St. Clair, the Poor Clare nuns out in Andover. Call them up, leave them a voicemail. Very often they answer the phone, tell them what your issue is, and they'll say prayers for you. Very effective, group of sisters, and thank you for your loving kindness. There's a lot of noise happening with these 18-wheelers. And there's going to be a public hearing at the Zoning Board of Appeals out in Chelmsford, at the Chelmsford Police Station. They have a beautiful community room. And June 5th, they're going to come together and give their gripes about these 18-wheelers driving down the street, being noisy, shaking their houses. They want something done about it. So they're up to the zoning board to see what's going on there. So if you're interested, head out to the Chelmsford Police Department Thursday, June 5th, 7 p.m. Kim Scott, gonna hit the minus sign here, shrink it down a little bit. Kim Scott, got this in the mail from Kim, thank you. The committee to re-elect Kim Scott invites you to the campaign fundraiser, Lowell City Council District 5, June 11th, at the Cavalero's Steakhouse. In fact, I ran into Manny Cavalero yesterday, and he's quite pleased. It's always a good eating at Cavalero's Steakhouse, 573 Lawrence Street. But Kim's party is going to be June 11th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Suggested donations start at $20 and go up. If you're going to make a check, make it made out to CTE, Committee to Elect CTE, Kim Scott. So hope to see you there. Moving right along, the Greek Festival's this weekend at the Gold Dome Church. Holy Trinity Church, going to be starting June 13th, 14th, and 15th. So that's next week. So it's a little around the curve, but be good eating that weekend. Moving right along, school's going to be ending pretty soon, and Tewksbury was bragging about it, so I grabbed this to just remind people. Pretty soon the kids will be out of school, traffic will be gone. The star of the show today, Gary Belanger, he's having the first ever district town hall meeting. He's going to have it on Saturday, June 7th from 11 to 1 p.m. at the Riley School, 115 Douglas Road. So if you got a gripe about what's going on, or you want to go shake his hand, or whatever you want to do, he'd love to see you over there. It's the first one ever. Hope it's successful. Gun awareness. Got to hit the minus sign so it fits. First annual Gun Awareness Vigil. Join us for a community gathering to honor victims and survivors as we work to end gun violence in the Lowell community. Please wear orange to bring a frame photo of a loved one as we come together for a collective moment of silence. It's going to be Friday, June 7th at 10 a.m. right in City Hall. If it's I don't know where, probably right inside the doorway. Depends on the weather, I think. So, but anyway, go down to City Hall Friday, 10 a.m. That's it. Back over to you guys. Thank you.
Isn't Saturday the 7th?
Yes.
It's not Friday. I think that's an error.
Friday, June.
Yeah. All I know is there's a wedding. So it should be June 6th, I guess, or is it Saturday the 7th?
It's usually a work day when City Hall's open.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Friday, I would guess the 6th.
6th, okay. Just,
Is City Hall open on Fridays in Lowell?
Yes, it is till noon, yeah.
Noon,
I
okay.
just don't want anybody to go the wrong date.
Good eye, Linda.
So I'm going to guess it's Friday. Friday, never mind the 7th.
Caught her mind, because she's like, wait a minute, I have a wedding. I'm
I think
Friday or Saturday.
Whoops.
That's usually what triggers it, right? When you know you've got something that date.
Yeah.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little dozy sometimes, so I'm not sure.
Picked up on that.
Okay. How about the Smith Baker? Do you want to talk,
The RFP is out. It's a 30-day RFP with pretty much for the month of June. There is an open doors for potential developers on, I believe, next Tuesday, the 10th, for people to come in, take a look, and hopefully put a bid in. If not, I voted to tear it down. It was 9-2. I think it was myself and Councilor Gitchia that voted to tear it down. Look, there's no joy in that vote. There's no doubt about it. It's a beautiful piece of history, but from what I understand, from people going in there who are subject matter experts, said it needs to come down. It's very dilapidated. The costs are not economical to convert that to a housing, to a museum, just simply aren't feasible. And so it's unfortunate, but We'll see what lies. I'll give, if we get a potential developer who has enough money on the table, I'll give them every tool to succeed. There's no doubt about it. But
Is that the building that that's rumored to have, like the Country Star backing?
yeah, no, Zach, is it Zach Brown? Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
got the church on Merrimack
Oh,
Street.
okay,
Yeah,
the church on Merrimack Street.
yeah.
I knew there was some money
Yeah,
coming in
it-
somewhere for the
Yes,
Kerouac
well,
Museum, right?
yes,
Is that
it-
what he's
Yep,
dumping it into?
exactly.
Yep.
Music hall, museum, so we're very excited about that on that neighborhood too. That's going to be really nice.
And so it's hard to, yeah, that's going to take off, and this has just been,
Yeah.
I know Bob brought home, he said, oh, the art community, because he's at the gallery, is supporting, I guess they're running fundraisers and they're trying to gather, and I said, oh, don't go there. Ooh, that's not the one. Somehow, I had the feeling a ridiculous bike program will be on the agenda. More scrap to clean out of the canals.
I have no knowledge of that. I don't know where we are. I don't see any item agenda to this point on the bike lanes. Again, the state, especially in the cities, wants bike lanes. So that's sort of another thing that's forced down our throat, on the main arteries especially.
The Front Street connected, that's ridiculous.
It is. It used to be
It's
two
more-
lanes down to one. I'm not saying I agree with it in many locations, but
I've never seen
no,
a
no.
bike. I've traveled that road quite a bit. I've never seen a bike.
very few, yeah.
Well, I remember when we did, when Kendall Road was being done too, we put in sidewalks that basically lead to the on-ramp of the highway. And, everybody knows you're not allowed to walk or ride a bike on the highway, but, that was a requirement, right? That we
We're still
have
doing it.
These sidewalks that lead to nowhere. I guess they're great for just a walk down Kendall Road and to turn around and come back. But if you look on Kendall Road, we have a sidewalk that leads to the on-ramp for the highway. And part of getting money for that and the road widening was there had to be a sidewalk. And I think there's, bike lanes that go up and down Westford Road that again lead to the highway. And
They're continuing
I
that
don't know
in
if that makes a
Kendall
lot
Road.
of sense either, right?
And it goes into, I don't understand, because we're doing it in Tingsboro, and it goes right to the Dunstable line, where you're going to get killed if you try to ride your bike in Dunstable.
Yeah,
because
some of those roads are very narrow.
You're right, a bike lane to nowhere.
Well, I think the rent-a-bike program went out the window with electric bikes.
I was going to ask, do they have that in Lowell? I saw that in Denver quite.
We had rent-the-bikes for a little bit, and didn't work out all that well. It was about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I was
And
curious.
they
You
were
just
blue,
saw
I think. They were
random
blue.
bikes parked everywhere, and somebody would come out and got it. I thought,
Yeah, right.
what if you ride a bike? What if you ride the bike to the restaurant and you plan on riding it back to wherever you got it from, but somebody just comes along and
You can
takes
leave it,
your
yeah.
bike?
You can leave it, yeah.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, bike share didn't work out all that well, Hillary, but we gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Seemed like it's only
Was it
in the major
because of the
cities.
winter, or like it just didn't
I
take
don't think
off in
it
general?
I don't think it took off, yeah, unfortunately.
Maybe a
in
warmer.
York, Maine, they have the golf carts for $5. You call the number, they come pick you up, they drive you where you want to go. Maybe we could do that.
That would be
A
more
big
effective.
parking lot, and you have golf cart rides coming from the parking lot.
Lenny, can you
Okay,
read this one?
what can be done about the kids on their little motorbikes and four-wheelers that take over the street?
Oh, this is, I don't know what you guys getting at Tingsboro, but it's a pain in the neck in the cities, really is. It ticks me off, if you want the truth. Because I live across from Fort Hill Park, and that's obviously a destination mode. You couldn't, in our day, that was unthinkable. You wouldn't even imagine taking dirt bikes and four-wheelers on the street. But however, different day and age, they get away with it. And
Why?
Worse than that, because most cities have a no pursuit policy. You can't chase them.
Yeah, I think everybody does, right?
Yeah,
Tingsboro
pretty much everybody,
has
yeah.
it as well.
Yeah, you can't chase them.
Oh, we don't
I
have
saw one.
What do you do?
I just
Yeah.
saw one yesterday. He went right through a red light, doing a wheelie
Yeah,
at about 50 miles an hour, right through a red light. The car was coming the other way, and
Yeah.
luckily they were going slow, and they stopped, or they would have hit him.
unbelievable. Yeah, I see it all over the city too. I appreciate it. It's frustrating. It's, what do we do? In the middle of the city, do you pursue it, through up the streets and he kills somebody, kills himself,
Yeah.
and then we're liable,
Yeah.
It's an awful situation. I really don't have an answer, unfortunately.
No. Oh, dear.
I mean, I think it's a problem everywhere, because I
Yeah.
think you see them
Yeah.
everywhere.
I would be remiss if I don't mention the opening of Ironwood.
Yeah. so I think
Ironwood
that's
Park in
this weekend.
Tingsboro. The former Tingsboro Golf Course is this Saturday, the 7th.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why it's stuck in my mind again. So I'm not sure of all the activities that are going on, but
Yeah, I
What-
think they're moving the health fair over there, right? The health and safety
Yeah.
fair is also going to be in conjunction with that. It was normally at the school, so I think there's a lot of activity to get that. Hopefully the weather cooperates and they get a good turnout.
yeah, I hope the
What, are you
rain.
kidding me? It's Saturday. It's gonna rain.
Yeah.
Like the last 14.
Yeah.
Again, we got an inch of
Yeah.
rain coming Saturday. Unbelievable.
I don't think we have a rain date.
I don't know, I have not, I've just seen it
If we do, I think I reach out to Colin to let people know.
I mean, I just saw the pictures. I unfortunately don't drive over there as frequently as I used to. But I saw the pickleball courts. That, of course, is a sore subject with Rick and I. We were not 100% in favor of selling that land, but I will give them, the props of the pickleball courts look beautiful and some of the stuff looks beautiful. I'm still concerned a little bit about, the drainage and flooding and
Is
Yes.
the
things
courts
that
all
come out the
public?
road.
Is the court, everything
Yeah.
They
public?
are,
Okay,
yeah,
that's-
yeah. So
Now-
if you're
All right.
a pickleball player, we
Can I
have
ask
8 new
you-
courts, I believe.
I thought when they put the driveway out onto Coburn, going, that was only going to be an emergency road. Because I had a man fly out of there, right across the intersection, right over to
Yeah,
to
I,
Sherburne.
Driveway, that's for emergency only. That's the one that comes out on Sherburne. The one for the affordable units, those two buildings that have affordable units, that's a whole different, that's a usable driveway, which they decided that was the right thing to do and put it out.
It's
on Coburn.
bizarre.
I think it was a last.
It comes
I
out in the
don't- I
middle
can't-
of the intersection
Yeah,
and
yeah,
going
it's
by
not-
the cemetery.
Yeah.
In the wetlands.
Yep,
Not to,
yeah.
but it's a dangerous situation. As I say, I was coming down and he just didn't look, didn't anything.
Yeah.
Right across, and that can be tricky anyway, that intersection by the
Yeah,
golf
Yeah,
course.
because nobody,
Yeah.
when you're coming in into the triangle, nobody really knows. I think there's a
Yes.
yield on both, but who yields to who and who gets to cut across if you're gonna go take the left? Who,
Yeah.
is that the person with the right of way? I don't think anybody knows that.
Would slowing down help a little bit?
Might.
A speed bump?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, I just
Well,
don't.
in the winter when it freezes, because all the water's
see.
coming out there,
Yes.
some people will slow
That will be a
down.
treat.
Some people won't.
Use Frost Road, perhaps, so. Okay, Corey, so what else? I know we're getting close to.
Melinda, we got 2 here and then.
Oh.
What do we got?
How did you vote on the city manager's budget and how much more taxes will residents pay? And that's number one. And there is a large condo development at 735 Broadway. Where is the parking for this complex?
Okay, let's start with the city manager's budget. We did approve the budget last Tuesday, $550 million budget, with a modest 2.5% tax increase. Now, I don't advocate for any tax increase, but that just barely meets fixed costs, which is, much like the towns see. Fixed costs is, in other words, an expected increase. Health insurance, charter school reimbursement, retirement pensions, salaries, employee raises, 3% this year, are all, expenditures that increase that we have to meet, or we got to double up on you the next year, and I don't think that's very responsible. So we did the best we could. We understand the taxpayers are below. I heard a lot from the homeowners in my district, largely single-family zoning, that the last couple of years were pretty tough. We had a 5.5 and a 3.5, along with assessed values that go up at the same time, right, guys? And that happens in Tingsboro, too, so that's a double-edged sword. So we made it clear to the manager, hold the line the best you can. So he did it. The administration came up with a very responsible budget. And so again, to answer your question, 2.5% increase.
So Linda, read this text and then we'll go back to the
Corey
panel.
said that there are some benefits of the MBTA Act. What are they?
Okay, yeah, and there are flaws as well, as I stated. Okay, the benefits to me, we do have the luxury of the commuter rail, okay, which starts here in Lowell and goes to Boston. There is potential near the, you have the bus station as well, okay? So along the train depot is, all public transportation that could take you all around the region with with LRTA and directly to Boston via the commuter rail. So we want to develop, the benefit to me is to create housing opportunities within that district that are walkable. I don't mean so much as the Heinz's Tavern project, which floods the neighborhoods, that I am not so much in agreement with. But those, for instance, in the shadows, LRTA owns a few properties around there that I understand are willing to develop housing. Across the street, around South Common, there is owned by the private sector. There is potential there too. So for those that are immediately walkable, if you will, within a few hundred yards per se, I'm looking to create some housing opportunities there, and it's high rise. You can go up significantly. Because the question before you was the tax, how much taxes are going up, which everybody asks. Well, to meet these continued costs, Lowell, we got a tremendous amount of challenges coming up. The high school next year will go online, okay? We're already 111 million in debt over that, and soon to rise with this latest situation with the floor in the 1922. We have federal mandate, we talk about state mandate of the sewer and water separation, 175 million. So we got some big bills, and how do we do that? To lessen the stress on the homeowners and the taxpayers, we need to create new tax revenue. So this is what I'm thinking, that I'm trying to focus on a citywide level that, doesn't adversely affect single-family zoning, but creates new neighborhoods that are robust with retail, with shopping, parking. There's garages there too with the LRTA garage. So that is my vision, if you will, is to increase the tax base, and this is the place to do it. This is where the potential is. So to me, that's the benefit, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's all about creating some tax revenue and getting the homeowners some relief, which is going to be much needed going forward.
Well, is it just housing, or are there any businesses,
Yeah, well,
business opportunities?
first few floors, yeah, there'll be, shopping, retail, first floor levels, hopefully a little commercial too, and then mostly housing, and then we'll have parking, and the concept is why the governor, and don't forget, we got this was forced upon us, we didn't ask for this. Right. And the concept is to get on to people who might work in Boston, where housing is, more than much as Lowell is, it's even more. That they might commute to Boston on a daily basis and work, and may not need vehicles. That's the concept. So, if something's going to be shoved down our throat, we might as well make the best of it, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well, on the MBTA thing, I'm lucky enough to serve on a couple of different bank boards. And they're not going to get the money from the bank. The banks, in order to develop, the developers depend on, I'm going to get out of the bank, I'm going to borrow a boatload of money, I'm going to build a boat, and the public will buy my boat, and I'll make a profit and pay the bank back. When you're building a boat with no water, that's a different story. So the banks, at least the banks that I'm involved with, are taking a serious look at no parking, no money. And so did anybody at the MBTA ask the banks thoughts on these things?
These are government officials we're talking about.
They don't
No.
take questions. I've got you.
No.
I got you. Thanks.
So, yeah, this challenge, with the interest rates and construction costs, absolutely, there's huge challenges with that. Hopefully trickle down in the years to come, the interest rates especially. These projects are very difficult, McD. There's no two ways about it. That's everywhere. In Boston, you don't even see much going on these days. What you do see is commercial office space being converted to housing. That's the big hustle and bustle in Boston. The cranes
Absolutely,
you used to see,
positively.
the cranes when I used to go into Boston and, prior to COVID, cranes everywhere, as far as the eye could see, the high rise. You don't see them anymore. So even the big cities are feeling the pinch too.
Now, are you on the bus board or no?
No.
Because right now the buses are running for free. And I think that our officials, public officials, should brag about this a lot more than they're bragging about it. Because every LRTA bus, if you're in Tingsboro, Tewksbury, Drake, Chesford, I don't care where you are, that bus is free. You just gotta wave at the guy and you get a free ride. Or the guy or gal, whoever's driving the bus, just wave at the bus driver, give them a hearty wave, they'll pull over. You don't have to
Yep.
be at the bus stop. And so I think our elected officials have got to brag about this at their municipal meetings especially, let the public know it's a free ride.
I know, yep.
Because it goes up into New Hampshire, right?
Yeah,
It
goes up to the malls and everything, right.
No,
Goes to the
Regional.
casino.
And
Yeah.
the new casino.
And then you can have lunch in
LRT is like any
Tingsboro.
regional. I'd like to see ridership pick up. When I see one drive by, I always tend to rub a neck and look in. I hardly see anybody on the damn things, you know,
right.
and it's frustrating. It's a lot of taxpayer money going into free transportation. It's not utilized like it should be. So it's frustrating. We need to perhaps advertise that a little better, McTee. I don't
Well,
doubt you.
I don't think it's realistic to think people out in the suburbs of I know you're talking about Lowell being urban. It's really not that urban. I mean, people still have to have cars.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they have to park. I mean, I do wish that somebody from
But I
from
think if
Boston
you
would come out and
at-
look.
I mean, but I think if you look at the wave, you know, it's going to be less cars. I mean, and I don't agree with this bill at all, but I listened to extensively them talk about the bill the other day that wants to curb the amount of mileage you can drive on your car. I don't agree with that at all.
Absolutely.
As
It's a big
someone who,
push.
you know, drove their children all around playing sports and drive miles and miles to visit family. But I think you see that's a big wave of the future, is not to have, you know,
Yes.
all these cars on the road, all this traffic, to try to move things out, especially with people either working from home or in remote locations and everything else.
Absolutely, Hillary.
That being said, I still don't agree with
No.
limiting people's mileage, but
Yep.
that's the wave of the future.
And
Linda, I think there's questions for the governor, but would you read it either way?
Does this vision include subsidized housing? If so, then we are still hostages to the state and feds.
that remains to be seen. Okay, now, I'll say this, the state subsidies for affordable housing. It is difficult to do market rate, but that's what we're trying to focus on the council. You know, Lowell has more than its fair share of affordable housing, okay? When we start talking retail, commercial, first floor, those are businesses, we need people with disposable income. So when we discuss next Tuesday, courthouses and the potential housing, market rates are going to come out of my mouth. I can promise you that. But nonetheless, those are a little more difficult for developers. It's harder to get a loan for a big developer for market rate than it is subsidized. Because again, all the state subsidies that kick in, they may kick in on a $40 million project, they may kick in 10, 12, 15 million, which makes the project feasible. Now you can rent at a lower rate. Where market rate, obviously you don't get that. So look at, I personally, I don't want to speak for the council, I'm looking to pivot in a different direction, more towards market rate. That's my vision. But again, I am looking to increase that tax base with the courthouses and the MBTA zoning. That's my goal.
But don't you're in a catch-22, right? Because at some point, you're adding all this housing stock, you have to keep your affordable level at that, you know, percentage in order to, again, meet the state standard for percentage of affordability. I mean, that was the big thing with, like, the golf course project.
Yep.
Because it was age-restricted, it didn't qualify, not that those homes qualify. But then, by adding those two buildings on the side, those were apartments, and apartments count 100% into your affordable house stock,
Yep.
even if they're not affordable.
Right.
Because they're rented.
Right,
Right.
because they're rentals. So that, I mean, if you're adding all this housing stock, you're gonna have to put set aside a percentage of it for affordable
Yeah,
housing.
right. And to your point earlier, Hillary, you made a great point for the question, was about the cars. Look, this is being forced, federal and state government is trying to force the cities and towns to drive less, walk and bike more. I think we can all agree on this, that's being sort of shoved down our throat as well. There's a bill in the state Senate, matter of fact, Cynthia Cream, I think from
Yep,
Watertown,
that's one.
has a
Yep.
bill to limit the amount of miles you could travel, an average individual can travel in the Commonwealth. That's what we're up against here. So I'd like to see it too. Believe me, I own two mountain bikes and an electric bike. Believe me, I'm not against it. However, people need vehicles today, and it's difficult that you can't stop that. You could try and curb it the best you can by creating housing. In a way, I do agree with it to a point. There's nothing wrong with housing around a train station, right, or a bus depot. That makes sense. It makes complete sense to me. But when you start inching into the neighborhoods and these zones get bigger than they should be, then I have a problem with it. So,
Well, aren't they
but it
doing-
is a halfway decent concept.
Tomorrow City
Along,
Life-
you know.
Tomorrow City Life, Evelyn Thorne's gonna be here, Bob Hoey's gonna be here, Sam Chase, and town manager from Charleston, Paul Cohen, he's gonna be here. And we got one little issue here. Does
Yeah.
low-income housing really add that much to the tax?
Yes, if it's, whether it's low income or workforce housing is something I'll be discussing too for, a city hall worker making 60 or 70, they can't afford a rent. I don't mind their rent being subsidized, right? Absolutely. But the tax base is the same. Yes, they don't pay less, an affordable housing unit like owned by the Coalition for a Better Acre, say, for example, still pays the same amount of taxes as a market rate, to answer your question.
Yeah,
So
Section-
they don't get discounted rate on
Meaning
taxes, no.
Section 8 housing,
Section 8 housing,
they pay, that physical building pays real estate taxes.
yes, they do.
Lowell housing,
Yeah.
like the Bishop Markham thing, or the whatever they call it, South Common Village, whatever they call it nowadays, they pay zero taxes.
Right.
And
But,
we pick
but
up their
private
trash
development
for
of,
free.
a private development of subsidized housing does pay the normal tax rate as anybody else.
Do you think we'll ever do anything about picking up their trash for free? The public housing? Why
I-
doesn't public housing give us a big fat check for picking up their trash?
I see your point, yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Time is short, Lynn.
Interesting. Jackson Street's going to be marketed, isn't it? The building in Jackson Street?
Yes, yep, that was
housing.
formerly owned by Lapoli, went to Cabot and Cabot, which works with many universities, it's a nationwide developer, 270 market rate units in 2 buildings, retail first floor. I think we did a good job there.
Hillary, the school, the middle
Yes,
school in
Tingsboro Middle
Tingsboro?
School is on track to be finished for the fall. In fact, they'll be moving in over the summer, once school is out. They'll start the move-in process of vacating the current middle school and getting everybody into the new. And then Phase 2 of the project starts, which is the demolition of the current middle school and redoing all the parking lot there and the addition of the softball fields. So excited that the kiddos will be headed to the new building in the fall, and knock on wood, right now we're under budget, so.
There you
How
go.
about that?
Imagine that, wow.
There you go.
It was no easy task, but we have we've had a great building committee. and
You
it's been a
have
great
had
experience.
and you met an
Hillary, how
awful
many
lot.
years have you been on that committee?
I think it's been five, because we started it in 2020, the official, when we got word of that was 2020, so we've been pushing for it for probably 15 or 16 years now, but
Thank you for that.
Yes.
excited to move in.
Congratulations,
And-
on budget, wow.
And I know there's some sadness that building is coming down. A lot of people have expressed, some sadness that the building's coming down. It was their high school and middle school and stuff. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to get people, one last look inside if they want to.
It was my high school, but I'm okay with
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, exciting, that's exciting for the town of Tingsboro and the community as a whole. It's
Well,
a beautiful new building
it's-
with lots of amenities that
Under
we'll
budget,
never
it's very
see
exciting.
again. The state's definitely not supporting schools the way they used to, so.
Well, they never do in the towns, so that's the other issue. And, of course, Ironwood is having their official opening this Saturday, the 7th, where the golf course was.
What's
And Corey's
Ironwood?
community
It's
meeting.
where the golf course,
What is it gonna be?
Tingsboro. Oh,
An
it's,
ice cream shop, or what is it?
There's the community center there, there's walking trails, there's pickleball courts. I don't know if there's any tennis
Basketball
courts.
courts.
Basketball
Yeah,
courts.
horseshoes.
Why am I not here?
Bocce?
Frisbee, bocce.
Rick, lean into the microphone.
Oh, sorry, John. Yeah, frisbee, bocce, basketball courts, yeah.
Nice walking
trails,
path.
And 100 units on,
Across the street.
100 units across the street that are monstrous, that sell for $1 million a piece, and they're right on top of each other, so.
Welcome to Tingsboro.
You can you can reach out your window and shake your neighbor's hand.
So I guess,
I wonder if they're sold out. Does anybody know if that
I
project-
think, last I heard, they were about 70%.
Oh.
And
that's
there's 100
incredible
I mean,
to me.
it's-
There's 100 units there, and yeah, they sold.
Because it's
out.
age restricted, so it's,
And
retirement
800,000 is,
and
right?
starting at 800,000. I mean, you
Wow.
can't step in the door for under 800,000.
Yeah,
So
that-
you know it.
that's-
I'm amazed.
30 seconds.
I'm not in touch.
Yeah.
So I guess we have to
Okay.
go.
All right, well, again, I'm having a town hall this Saturday, 11 to 1, at the Riley School. Please come down, those in District 3 and throughout the city. If you have any ideas, concerns, questions, come on down. If I can sit through McD 2 hours with John McDonough, I can go through anything. So come on down, give me your concerns, everybody.
We'll have
Thank you
back
for
in
getting
early
up.
June. Thanks, Corey. See you
My
tomorrow.
pleasure.